It is 5 p.m. and I am going to call the meeting of the Public Safety Committee and Committee of the Whole on November 3rd, 2025 to order. I'm Rob Watton, Chair. Tonight's meeting is being recorded through Zoom and will be available on the city's YouTube channel for your viewing pleasure. And with that, I'm going to call the roll. And we have Councilmember Cotton in the room, and we believe we are waiting for Councilmember Christensen to join us remotely. And until she does, will you concur with me to excuse Councilmember Christensen, and then we'll welcome her as if she has the opportunity to join us.
I second that.
Okay, very well. And then also present is our city clerk, Dina Dean, city mayor, Catherine Ross, city administrator, Mike Chambliss, our city attorney, Dina Burke, and our assistant city attorney, Robert Thrall, legal assistant / everything else as well. All right, good evening. Next item is to approve the agenda. Councilmember Cotton, do you have any changes to tonight's agenda?
No.
Being none, we will accept the agenda as presented, and we will move on to public comments. Unfortunately, I don't see any members of the public here in the council chambers. However, we always welcome input. You can do that directly through myself, through Clerk Dean, or any of the members of the committee, and we'll make sure that those get addressed. But if you're here in person, you get the opportunity to speak to us. And we welcome and love that opportunity. So with that, unless there's anyone here in the room wishing to speak as a member of the public, please indicate so. Otherwise, I will close the public comment period with that. Now we move on to minutes. Approval of the minutes dated October 20th, 2025. Any corrections? They look good. We will accept those as presented. And now we get to move on to Agenda Bill 25-101, South King County Fire Training Consortium Interlocal Agreement. And Chief Bailey.
Explain that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. First of all, just to explain what I passed out. Part of the agenda bill is I attempted to include the Word document that had the track changes of the old ILA. And then I was just notified just a few minutes ago that that didn't come through in Laserfiche. It just came through as accepted. So I wanted to make sure that you had the copy that you were supposed to. And I'm going to briefly, there's a couple of things in there I want to highlight. Most of it's editorial changes, and we'll go over that as we talk about it. And like I said, I'll go through and kind of talk through some of those changes. They're all highlighted in color there. So I wanted to make sure you had all the information for this evening. So for this agenda bill, just as a reminder, the South King County Fire Training Consortium is what the fire department uses for all of our training needs. We've been part of it since 2019. The parent organization of the training consortium is Puget Sound Fire Regional Fire Authority. And members of the training consortium is pretty much everybody in South King County from I-90 south, as well as north of I-90 would be ourselves, Fall City, and Eastside Fire and Rescue, and now Kirkland Fire. The training consortium handles all of our training needs. They provide annual training. They provide our training calendars, block training for all of our firefighters, as well as training classes that our firefighters need, mandatory classes, as well as some of the specialty classes that are required, such as swift water technician, rope technician, pump operator. We've been a member of the training consortium since 2019. It's worked out really well for the fire department. We've gotten a lot better. Although we did do our training before and we met all the training requirements, we get a lot better training through the training consortium. We get subject matter experts as opposed to kind of being a jack of all trades. If we were doing it ourselves, we get a lot of the expertise of all these member departments, as well as, it's just a better quality of training for our firefighters. We've been really pleased with the results. So what we're here for tonight is every couple of years, every 3 years, they do an update to their ILA, which is just the legal portion of the contract. This one that is coming before us for next year, for the next 3 years, is roughly editorial changes. There's no significant changes to it. There's no changes to the financial impact, the calculations that they use for how much we pay. It's really just cleaning up some language, changing a few things in the ILA, and we'll kind of go over those here in a second. As a reminder, though, I wanted to point out that, this is something that is budgeted for. It's part of our training budget. And actually, we get a pretty large credit for our involvement with the training consortium by our training captain spends about 15 weeks out of the year down at the consortium helping to teach classes. Just to point that out, our bill would pretty much be $93,000 a year for the training consortium, but because of the hours that Captain Fouts puts in at the training consortium, our bill for 2026 is going to be about $25,000. So we get a pretty substantial credit, and we've talked to them, and if we ever decide that we want to change that agreement, whether he goes and spends more time at the training consortium to get a higher credit or less, that is something that can be changed at any time throughout the year. It's not something that's locked in with this ILA or anything like that. That's just an agreement we have with them that can be changed at any time to fit the needs of the department. So I wanted to just kind of briefly go over and highlight what the changes are that you didn't get to see, just so that you have full awareness of what we're talking about. And I'm just going to kind of start on the first page there and go through. And again, really what they did is they just did you'll see is a lot of it's changing just some language and making it clear as to what they're talking about. On the first page there, really, they took away the mission statement. They just took it out of the ILA. They do have a mission statement. They actually did a strategic plan this year for the training consortium. So they just took it out of the ILA. You'll see there on the bottom. The stuff on the top is really just helping to define what the training consortium is. Second page, nothing really to point out. The third page, I did want to point out, they talked about the training chief. The training consortium does have a chief that is in charge of the whole group. In the past, that used to be voted on by the administrative board. Every member agency of the training consortium has a seat on the administrative board, myself included, and has a vote. So the administrative board, it did vary as to who was in charge of the training consortium. Over the last couple of years, they've determined, though, that it really makes the most sense to have a training chief that is an employee of Puget Sound in charge of that agency, just because they're the main, they're the parent organization of it, and they have all the financial controls of it. So it really just makes sense that it be a training chief with Puget Sound. So in 2.3, really, that's what changing the language. They're just saying that it'll be a chief of Puget Sound. The other one I wanted to highlight that wasn't necessarily editorial changes, but it is what's currently happening, is on page 5. It talks about the cost per member. And I just wanted to make sure that you are aware that we do, the current formula is we pay per member, but it's only uniform members. So that's the actual career firefighters is what we pay per member. I want to say it's just over $5,000 per member is what the current cost will be for 2026. We don't pay for our volunteer members or myself. It's only the line staff. We do pay a small fee to have them on our learning management software, a couple $1,000s, but it's not the full per member fee. That hasn't been a change. That's something that's always been that way. They just added the word uniformed in there just to make it a little clearer. The last one I wanted to point out is on page 7. They struck a lot of the language regarding insurance and then made a couple of paragraphs on the page 8 where it talks about what type of insurance you have to be a member of the consortium. And that's something that the city has all the requirements. And if you look down there at in the green, I believe 8.4, it talks about being a member of a risk pool in Washington State. That's what we currently are. So we meet all of the insurance requirements. Again, I think they just kind of wanted to spell it out a little bit better how it's set up. But again, there was no major changes. And that's pretty much what I had. Again, a lot of it was just changing the wording in regards to things like state of Washington instead of Washington. A lot of it was just editorial changes. I apologize again that you didn't get a chance to see that, but I just wanted to make sure that you had all the information tonight. So that's what we're asking for, is just the approval for this next 3 years for this ILA with the training consortium. It's meeting the needs of the department. It's cheaper than we'd be able to do by ourselves. Plus, it's providing a lot more efficient and a lot better product than we'd be able to do for ourselves. So I would recommend that we continue with the training consortium again for the next 3 years. And they've shown in the past too, if for some reason we ever do decide to leave, that could, there's nothing that holds us to it. This ILA doesn't hold us necessarily to it for 3 years. They would let us out if we needed to.
Great. Excellent, Chief. Any questions, Councilmember Cotton?
No, I think it's, as Chief Bailey pointed out, really great that all the surrounding agencies are also training this way so that everybody's kind of on the same page when responding on calls, which really is helpful with, a large fire operation or anything like that. So it's a great idea.
Excellent. I do have one small change, and that's on the agenda bill analysis, line 2. We've got the word then, and it should be the word than on line 2. If we can make that small adjustment, it's one of those things that kind of spell check doesn't, looks right.
And it's irking you.
Yeah.
Well, me too.
The
because
small pet
4
peeve.
different people read it and don't catch it. So
Oh, you just needed me to, but no, I think this is excellent. Consent agenda,
Absolutely, yeah.
since it's ongoing and there's no financial impact, we've already included in the budget.
it's included in the budget. There is an increased cost from this year to next year, but it's all inflationary, normal increases. It's nothing that's changed by this ILA.
Okay, any objection to that? Okay, excellent. Thank you much, sir. Now, one more item. And that's Fire Department third quarter accreditation report, Chief.
Wait for technology to catch up with us here. There we go.
We left a lot of time tonight for public comment. This would have been the opportunity to come and spend the evening
What
with
a
us.
pretty engine.
Oh my gosh. I see it through the window and it's like, oh, that looks awesome.
Yeah, just to talk about it, since you brought it up, is the crews have been working really hard on getting trained. We're down to the last couple pieces. I would expect it to go in service here within the next 2 weeks. We just want to make sure that all the engineers are trained on it and have signed off on the training. We don't want to go into a situation where one day it's in service, the next day it's not because somebody's not trained. So that's where we are. It's all outfitted. It's got everything's figured out to where it's going to be. It's just a matter of finishing that training, getting the drivers trained on it. So yeah, you've probably seen it driving around town, and the crew's been working hard on getting checked off on it.
Any concerns with the slight increase in size, height, as far as driving around town? I mean, is
We're going to help Public Works do some tree trimming. It is a little bit taller than our previous engine. One of the things that we're trying to do was get 3 ladders on top. So it is a little bit taller, but it does have some, I guess you could say, brush catchers in front of it that would help part the ways. But the part of the training is the firefighters do know that, there are certain places they can take it, certain places they can't. For the most part around the city, we can get where we need to go. There might be some tight areas or some things they need to be aware of the higher branches. But we have the height of the vehicles right there on the dash, and they all know that it's a piece of it, especially if we go outside the city. down some of the rural roads in some of the county, we're not gonna just be blazing a trail, knocking trees down that are this high, so. At least they better, they better not. Part of the training. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the quarterly report here. Something we've seen before. Again, I just want to kind of hit some of the highlights. Obviously, it was included in your packet, but I just wanted to give you a little bit extra information on some of the things in here. So I skip around a little bit on the pages. The first one I want to talk about is our incidents. We're right on track. We're gonna be at least probably right where we were last year, maybe a little bit under just based on the projections. I don't think we're gonna be vastly different, 100 calls more, 200 calls more than we were last year. I think we're gonna be right about the same, maybe a little bit under. Our busiest months are during the summer, and then it kind of slows down in the winter as has been kind of the norm. But then again, we're one storm away from having 20 calls a day. That would pop us right back up there. But again, it's not gonna be vastly different. We're not gonna see a huge spike in calls. Talk to more about the incidents. You can kind of see where we're sitting right now between 2025 and 2024. Our EMS calls have gone up about 5%. We've been on more EMS calls. And so it's gone up slightly on that. Some of the other ones that have gone up a little bit are fire calls as well as the good intent calls. And that has to do with, excuse me, I'm sorry, the good intent calls went down a little bit. But really, it's just the main difference is looking at the pie, it's just the EMS calls have gone up just a little bit. Everything else is a percentage or two, and we'll see where we end up at the end of the year. The one I did want to point out was at the bottom there, and it'll be on the next page too, is the mutual aid. As you can see, aid received has gone up quite a bit. That's again, how many times how many calls people come into the city. And that just has to do with the types of calls we're seeing. We're seeing a lot more fire alarms, which require 2 units. We're getting another unit from either Falls City or East Side. So our aids received has gone up quite a bit, about 5-6% there. Our aid given has gone up a little bit. And then coincidentally, the Snoqualmie only calls have gone down. So you can see that again, as it has been the trend for the last couple of years, our mutual aid given and received is kind of dictating a little bit about our call volume. Yes.
Councilmember Cotton.
I just had a question. I think, I'm not sure if it was in this stats or the following one of the graphs, is that it was when other agencies come into our area, it seems they bring more rigs in. I mean, I know we're only responding with one, or two pending, the type of call if we can split a crew. So do they always travel in bigger packs?
They need more hand holding, so it has to do with the type of call, and that's actually on one of the next pages here. We're gonna hit that in just a second. If I don't answer your question, let me know and we'll get to it. So the next page there, it talks about mutual aid given, and this page really talks about just the actual number of calls. It doesn't talk about units, just as Councilmember Cotton was discussing. It just shows you the specific, just one call. There's a call number. They came into the city. We went into their city. So you can see both there for East Side, Falls City, and then again, other would be some of the bigger responses. Maybe Redmond comes in, doesn't count for medic units from Bellevue, but Redmond, maybe the pass. Sometimes Maple Valley come into the city. But as you were pointing out on the next page, it talks about calls versus units for mutual aid given. And that's really what you were talking about, Councilmember Cotton. As you can see there that although the number of calls that East Side responded into Snoqualmie in this instance was total for the year up to this point was 153. When you look at actual units that were brought in to those, it was 293. So it's almost a $100 over 100 units when you look at that. And that has to do with, say, for example, we have a car accident in Snoqualmie. Not only are we going to respond with our engine, we'll get an aid car from outside, and then we'll also probably get a battalion chief. So that's the extra unit. Obviously, we know that when we have fires, we're going to get 5, 6, 7, 8 units from outside the city. The other big one there is fire alarms. Our accreditation calls for 2 fire trucks to be on every fire alarm, whether it's residential or commercial. And so that's where you see a lot of that being made up is they'll bring in East Side or Falls City, I guess, depending on who's available. We'll bring an engine into any automatic fire alarm. And that's just because of the risk out here. It takes so long when we do decide that it actually turns into a fire. to pull all those units takes quite a bit. So that's why we say for our risk hazard, because we're kind of isolated, it's better to have 2 engines initially on every fire alarm. Some of the departments, I'd say most of the departments in the county only do that for commercial. We do it for both commercial and residential. And again, that's just part of our staffing, part of our accreditation that we've determined our risk value. When we go to, I mean, there's a little bit of a difference between, I think it's, there's 7 times where we took an extra unit to east side. We took 2 units instead of 1. That just happens to be like, as you said, if we have 2 units available, both the engine and the A car available that day, maybe one of those chief officer goes along to help out. So there is a few differences with that, but there is a big difference between units when we're talking about what we do versus call with east side.
Chief, I just want to interject, sorry. I want to recognize that Councilmember Christensen joined us at about 5:15 p.m. So welcome, Councilmember Christensen, and Chief, back
Thank
to you.
you. Sorry that I'm late.
Oh, that's okay. We're glad you're with us.
Just
Councilmember Cotton.
follow up on the stat. So if it's residential and I'm assuming many times they'll get the other city's unit might get canceled. And but does that still count in the stats as far as the response even when they're canceled?
Yeah, we don't necessarily look at that. We look at what's dispatched. We don't necessarily look at the canceled.
Yeah.
And coincidentally, a lot of times when even though it says that we go to east side, 373 times, a lot of those could be canceled. As soon as their rig comes available, they might cancel us. So yeah, but we don't use that necessarily in our statistics because it was dispatched. It did take away from, whether it's a minute, whether it's an hour, it did take away from our response. So we don't differentiate between the false calls when we're talking about this. We do, obviously track them when we're talking about the type of calls, but it's not shown in these statistics.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one we have there is just our performance measures. Again, they don't change much from time to time, which I think is a testament to how well we're doing. But again, just to point out, when we're looking at turnout times in the city, and that's how long it takes the guys to get, or the members of the department to get to from what they're doing in the station to inside the rig ready to respond. The majority of it is within the first minute 30. You can see there the first 4 columns down on the right-hand side. The majority of or actually really the first 3, the majority is within minute 30. We do drop a little bit. There are a few between 1:30 and 2, and then very few after 2 minutes that we have turnout times. And usually those have to do with training. The firefighters maybe are training out back, takes them a little bit longer to get the engine. And just as a reminder too, we look at those every month. We look at those statistics. Anything over 2 minutes or anything over 1:30, the officers have to give a report as to why, whether it was multiple units, whether they're training. So we do hold them accountable for anything over 1:30 because that's kind of our standard, but it does happen. And then the next one there is we talk about travel times. And again, when you look at, these are within the city, the majority of our travel time is within that first 7 minutes, 7 to 8 minutes. There are a few over 8 minutes, and again, that has to do with just probably not emergency calls. Maybe they were put on, as in they responded and they were waiting for the police officers to clear it before we went in. Statistically, that's not many of you, but we're doing a really good job of, even though it shows there that 312 are up to 8, the majority of those 312 are probably within the first 4 or 5. There's not many places we can't get into the city within 7, 8 minutes, just some of the far reaches of the ridge or the far reaches of town. It takes us just a little bit longer, but the majority are within that first 1 to, I'd say, 5 minutes. The next one on there is fire inspections. Oops, go back a little bit. No, I did it. Hey, look at that. There we go. Fire inspections. Fire inspections, again, just as a reminder, we used to do every single occupancy or every single business in the city once a year. That was just too many to handle. We prioritize to a 1 every 3-year schedule, except for the high-risk ones, the schools, the big businesses, those get done every year, and then everything else within the 3 years. If you've been paying attention, our numbers are a little bit lower this year. We are a little bit behind. We're probably not to get to all the ones that are scheduled to be done this year. We might be having to bleed over into the first quarter of next year. And a lot of that just has to do with we have 6 throughout the year. At any given time, we had 6 members on probation, which is a lot, 6 of the 15, that's a lot of training that has to be covered. And although the lieutenants know that this is a priority and they've been working hard to catch up, it's just one of those things we just don't have a lot of time, but it's something we're aware of. And the training captain, who also does our fire inspections, he's in charge of that program. He's been working on coming up with plans for the crews to get caught up, but it will probably bleed over a little bit into the first quarter next year. And then the last thing on there is property loss. You can see the last 2, it shows the third quarter, but really for the last 2 quarters, we've had no fire loss, no property loss, no content loss from fire within the city limits. So numbers haven't changed on that. We just had a small, very small, I believe, room and contents fire at the beginning of the year. Other than that, my nice wooden thing will knock. And again, we've been really lucky, and it's been a good testament to what we're doing here that we haven't had, and the newness of the community. We haven't had any of the other fire responses. So that's just kind of an overview again where we're at. Any questions? I'll entertain any questions. Again, the full report was in your packet. As always, if you have any concerns or questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to go into depth in some of the things that we're looking at.
That sounds great. Want to commend the department on response time, on fire prevention, the inspections. So I guess the choice is, do we put this on consent or regular agenda item for a brief presentation from the fire chief?
I would say consent, since it's just a quarterly report, maybe, and do the
All
end of
right.
the year as,
Okay,
unless anyone else objects to.
okay. Well done, though.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I believe it's included in their packets, so they'll get an opportunity to see it.
okay. Yes.
Person Christensen.
Oh, thank you very much. Councilmember Christensen, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, don't we normally just put it on information only instead of the consent agenda?
Yeah,
Okay,
we do, but we can put it on consent, whatever you.
either way. Information only? That's fine. Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to object and want to pull it off of consent, so just information only. That's a great suggestion. Thank you. Anything else? Councilmember Christensen?
No, nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one more question for Chief Bailey.
Councilmember Cotton, please.
So I know that firefighter Ramos went through his medical training this past week. Is he the last probationary firefighter to come off of probation? How many more do we have left?
We had a couple of the last few days here. So firefighter Owens came off on Saturday. I came in Saturday morning and handed him his new shield. And then firefighter Ramos, who was hired at the same time as him, just came off this morning. We had Lieutenant Peter O'Donnell, who received his first shift as lieutenant. We're going to have him in front of the council on the next meeting on the 10th, but he just started. So right now we have 3 more members that are on probation, and that was firefighter Lohendorf, Duddles, and Osagieta. They were hired in January. So 2 were hired in January. 1 was hired in April. So they're still able to come off in the next couple months, and that will leave us just with 1. And that's the one that we're currently in the process of hiring, going through the backgrounds and things right now. We've selected somebody, but they're going through the normal physical and background, and we're hoping that they're going to start January 1. So starting in after January 1, we'll just have 2 on probation, the brand new one, and then for 3 months, firefighter Osagieta will be coming off in April. So we're going to be down to 1, hopefully here after April. But yeah, it's been quite a bit. The crews have been doing quite a lot to do the training, takes a lot of their time, but yeah, we're paring that number down, so.
Great.
Excellent. Thank you much, Chief. All right, that brings us down to the last item, items for future discussion. I believe Councilmember Cotton, you have one that you shared with Councilmember Christensen and me, and that's Crisis Care Center.
Oh, yes, I'm going to attend the Zoom meeting for the information on the crisis care centers. And then I will bring that forward at a public safety meeting to share the information with everyone as far as what's going on. The other item, which may or may not happen, was I was going to, I guess it seems appropriate to mention it here, put in an application for one of the SCA committees, since the medic one has gone to vote. So, but was looking at the emergency management monthly meetings, and so see if I have what they're looking for, I guess, as far as one of their elected official positions, so.
And the process for that is typically through Mayor Pro Tem, through the council, through the administration, just so that we have purview of who's applying for what?
Right, I think if you just maybe mention it, maybe at a council meeting that you're applying for it, that way we know that nobody else then will apply for it. So we don't have multiple applications from Snoqualmie. And then also we'll certainly support you because it's very important to have that representation, so.
Yeah,
Thank you for stepping up.
I wanted to mention it because the applications are due on Friday.
Right.
So,
That's
but I
great.
can certainly send a email or text to Mayor Pro Tem.
I would just.
We
maybe-
could do it afterwards, next week at the meeting. I mean, once your name's in the hopper.
Or you can send out an email just saying you're applying for that, so
Okay.
others
Yeah,
probably wouldn't. So
Okay.
it's good.
excellent.
Were we concerned about a lot of other people applying?
More people involved in more SCA.
Yeah.
And later this week, I'll determine whether I'm reapplying to the Regional Law, Safety and Justice Committee. So stay tuned for that. So anyway, that Councilmember Christensen, do you have anything else for the good of the order?
I do not, thank you.
Thank you much. And if there's no further business to come before us, we will adjourn at 5:32 p.m. Unless there's any objection. Hearing no objection, we are adjourned. 5:32 p.m. Thank you much for joining us.